Alright y'all, hey, thanks for coming by 5 years late today. Today we're going to be talking about the first 5 notes most of the time that you'll be playing on this guy, the trumpet, right? Now, what I run into most of the time, inevitably, right, is that no two people have the same level of difficulty with the same notes, right? So the first 5 notes that we're going to be dealing with from bottom to top, right, and I usually reference things like that, bottom to top, right, is C, D, E, F, and G, right? These are all natural notes. Don't worry, you don't need to think about sharps, flats, or any of that kind of jazz, right? This is just a beginning video, right? If you're looking for how to buzz, check out the previous video, which is getting a buzz on brass instruments, right? That might not be the exact title, but that's the video you want to go look at, okay? At this point, I'm assuming that the person already knows how to buzz, you know, and mind you that they've already learned how to buzz with just the mouthpiece, not the instrument in hand, right? You need to be able to create a sound with either, you know, anything that you're dealing with, the mouthpiece that goes with your instrument. You need to be able to create that sound before you pick up the instrument, all right? I cannot emphasize that enough. No sound here means no sound here. No question about it. That's how it works. You create the sound here with the mouthpiece, all right? Now, most of the time, you're going to be using a mouthpiece that, you know, kind of looks like this, right? This is a knockoff 7C mouthpiece, right? A lot of people start out with a Bach 7C, and then the next one is like a Bach 5C, right? Just, you know, there's going to be some mouthpiece usually that comes with your instrument. Doesn't matter what it is, I don't care, right? You're going to have something along those lines, and it's going to look something like this, perfectly fine, right? Now, I am a very interesting individual because, well, I'm a music educator, right? And so I therefore know how to play every, you know, instrument that you're going to find in a normal band room or in an orchestra, right? That's my job. That's what I do. So the way I combat problems with switching instruments, for example, is using one mouthpiece between multiple different instruments. So for example, if I'm going to switch between French horn and trumpet, I'm not going to change mouthpieces. I'm just going to go ahead and use the same mouthpiece, right? So I'm actually going to use my French horn Yamaha 32C4 over here, which is one of like the most standard French horn mouthpieces that you're going to get from Yamaha, okay? Now what I do is I use this little adapter right here to make it so that my mouthpiece can fit with the instrument. Because if you'll notice, get that nice ring from the bell, if I stick this in here, it's super loose. It doesn't stay in there, right? It doesn't fit properly, right? Because the bore, right, and the shaft of the mouthpiece on a French horn mouthpiece is thinner than that of a trumpet mouthpiece. If you put these two next to each other, you can see this is the trumpet one right here. This is the French horn mouthpiece, right? Huge difference, huge difference. So what do? I use this nice Selmer adapter, right, which is oftentimes used, honestly, with like marching band people, okay, who, you know, play, I don't know, like mellophone during marching season, and then they go in and they have to play trumpet during concert season because, you know, they don't want to play French horn, you know, or something like that, right? It's a way for you to switch back and forth. Or, sorry, all the way around, maybe if you're like your French horn person during concert season and you want to play trumpet on the field, right, but you don't want to switch mouthpieces because it messes with your embouchure, the structure of your mouth, so you just use one and you use an adapter. So you can see though, right, if we put these next to each other, now suddenly the thickness is pretty damn similar down here at the widest point, right? So I take that, right, I can go ahead and drop that right into my lead pipe, do a little just drop and, you know, not even a quarter turn, like a 16th or an 1/8 of a turn, honestly. There you go, it's in there, it's not going anywhere, that's what you're looking for, okay? Now, the way I will reference the notes that you're going to play is going to be by, I'm going to describe the location on the staff, right? Trumpet plays in treble clef, right? And so I'm going to describe the location of the note on the staff because I don't have a way of showing it. And then I'm going to say what letter that is, right? And then I'm going to give a demonstration of the valve, you know, numbering that you're going to use for that and what it sounds like, okay? Real quick, let me just go ahead and get a buzz right here just to make sure that my lips are working properly. there we go, right? We make sure that the mouth is working properly, right? And that we're gonna be able to get a sound out of the instrument. Now, the trumpet, like I said, plays on treble clef, right? So the first note that we're gonna take a look at is gonna be C, right? And specifically which C, there's a million C's that you're gonna be able to play on trumpet at some point, right? But not right now. We're talking about, there are 5 lines on the staff, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The C that we're talking about is not even on those 5 lines. It's actually a space and then another line below that, which is called the first ledger line below treble clef. Okay, so that's the C that we're going to use for today, right? That C. Okay, now to play this C, you actually don't have to press any of the valves on the instrument, right? This is an open note. Open meaning that you just have whatever the pitch is of the actual trumpet, the length of tubing that you get without pressing any buttons. That's the amount of tubing that you need to be able to produce the note. Open note. Okay. There are multiple open notes, so don't confuse that for later. Okay. But anyway, this first C, let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like. Right? There's that C. Okay, now, same position and everything. I'm still holding the instrument the way that I normally would in the previous 2 videos, right? But I'm just not pressing any buttons for that C. Now, the next one that we're going to take a look at is going to be D, right? So on the 5 lines, it's, right, not even actually going to be on those 5 lines. It's going to be the space just below the bottom line of the treble staff, right? So not the first ledger line. It's in between the first ledger line and the first line of the treble staff, right there in that little space, okay? And that note is going to be played using the valves 1 and 3, right? So essentially, if you're spatially impaired and you can't see or can't figure out what angle this is, right? Your index finger and your ring finger, not your middle finger, only your index and your ring finger, okay? This is the letter D, and here's that pitch. One more, and right, that's your D. Okay, now C, D, E is the next one that we're going to go for. Now, of the 5 lines on the treble staff, E, the one that we're going to play right now, is going to be the bottom line of the treble staff. Okay, you want to look for a note that has the bottom line of the treble staff going through it. That's what that E is going to look like. The fingering for that note, right, is going to be 1 and 2, right? Your first index finger and your second finger, the middle finger, both of those press down together. Okay, you have to make sure that they are not, no one of them is like half pressed or only slightly touching. You need to press them both down together at the same time. Here's what that one's going to sound like. This is your E. Right, there's that E that you're going for. Okay, now 2 more notes to go and then we'll be done with this video, right? The next one, C, D, E, F, right? The F is, I'm not singing the scale properly, but don't get on my vocalization here, because honestly, that's not my best overall, right? So, but we're looking at F, right? Which is going to be, of the 5 lines, it's actually not on a line, it's in the bottom space right there. Right? Between the first and the second line, the note head for F would be right there in that space between the first and second line, okay? Now, this is, not too high of a note either yet, right? But as we're getting up into these higher notes, this is where you as a person may have difficulty with higher notes, and so you might want to stick around the C, D, and E for a little while, right? And just stick with those. Transversely, I've also had students that suck really bad at low notes to start, right? And they can only play high notes, right? And so then you might want to start with G or F and work your way down to E, D, and C from there. It really depends on you, the person, and you need to try all of them and just kind of figure it out and see what you can do. Okay, but anyway, here's that F that we're talking about. There you go. That's your F. Once again, that's the first space on the treble staff, right? I actually happen to be someone who sounds a little bit better on the high side of the instrument. My mid to high is very good, whereas my low is not the most fabulous. You probably would have heard that C and D, especially in the very beginning, sounded kind of airy, right? Of course, that might also just be because my lips weren't really warmed up, and so then I was letting a little bit of air kind of escape through the lips without creating vibration. It was an inefficient transaction of air from me to the instrument, right? But the G is the next note that we're going to take a look at, and the G that we're talking about right now is located on the second line from the bottom. Everything is referenced from the bottom, okay? The second 1, 2, second line on the treble staff, right? That line going directly through that note head. Okay, the black circle or the open circle, whichever one you might be seeing at the time. Okay, now this is also another open note that we're talking about here. Okay, so you can play C, the low one, which is the first ledger line below the staff, right, with open valves, no buttons, and you can also play G, which is the second line on the treble staff without pressing any buttons, right? That's just a part of the overtone series and the way the instrument works. You can play multiple notes with one fingering, and otherwise you wouldn't be able to play anything with this instrument, right? It would be a natural horn. You'd only have a set of about 15 pitches that you'd be able to play with the instrument, and you just wouldn't be able to do very much with that. Okay, so anyway, here's that G that we're talking about. Once again, no buttons, second line from the bottom on the treble staff. Clear out that pitch a little bit, and right, there's that G. My first one was a little bit airy, right, but the second one I went ahead and cleared that up a little bit. Okay, so those are your first 5 notes on trumpet, right? I'm playing with a Yamaha French horn mouthpiece using a Selmer adapter to the trumpet lead pipe, right? So that's a little bit weird. Your sound may vary in comparison to mine. The French horn mouthpiece is going to generally sound probably a little bit rounder, right? Whereas the trumpet mouthpiece is probably going to sound a little bit brighter, more on edge, like and have a little bit more, there's like a sparkle to it that, that is kind of included in that timbre, and that's, a topic for another video. But if your note doesn't sound exactly like mine, right, then that's okay. You're probably just using a different mouthpiece, and or you probably just need to practice a little bit more and get like a consistent sound going out of this, right? But anyway, thanks for coming by 5 years late. These are the first 5 notes on trumpets. Like, leave comments down below if this helped you out, and what else you might want to learn more about in the future. If there's an instrument that I haven't covered already and you want to know about that instrument specifically, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I'm going to try my best to read all of them and respond if you have questions or anything like that. And please subscribe for future content. It really helps me out to figure out if people are paying attention to this and if the information that I'm giving helps them out. So thanks for coming by 5 years late, and we'll see you here in the next video.